Dillon Gabriel, a college standout with flashes of brilliance, but never quite the marketing juggernaut, got drafted late, bounced around, and never really found his rhythm. And then, bam, he lands in Cleveland, on the same roster as Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback everyone wouldn't shut up about. Now on paper, they should have been teammates. Partners in a rebuild. QB room buddies.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
But nope. From day one, insiders say the tension was palpable. Shedeur was magnetic, confident. He had the locker room buzzing before he ever took a snap. Media, obsessed. Coaches, watching closely. And Gabriel, he was already looking over his shoulder. Which brings us to the trade. The Browns send Gabriel packing, not because he wasn't talented, but because allegedly he couldn't stop creating waves. And not the good kind. Reports started surfacing. Leaked DMs, anonymous quotes in local sports blogs. Whispers that Shedeur wasn't ready, that he didn't have the mindset, that his contract was a distraction. And while the sources were conveniently unnamed, people connected the dots. Then came the trade. Gabriel out. Quietly. No farewell post. No classy thank you to the fans. Just gone. But then he spoke. In an interview that should have been a fresh start in Carolina, Dillon Gabriel couldn't help himself. When asked about Cleveland and the situation with Shedeur, he dropped the quote that launched 1,000 debates. Some guys are built for football. Some guys are built for the cameras. I just hope the league figures out the difference. Boom. It was cold, passive-aggressive, and 100% about Shedeur. Within an hour, it was trending. Sports radio lit up. The internet had opinions. Some called Gabriel bitter. Others tried to spin it as competitive fire. But everyone agreed it was petty. It didn't read like leadership. It read like insecurity. And you know who didn't flinch? Shedeur. No clapback. No subtweets. No sit-down interview to defend himself. He just posted a training clip. No caption. Just work. And that right there? That's the difference. That's why this whole moment matters. Because in the new NFL, it's not just about what you do on the field. It's about how you handle the circus around it. And Shedeur? He owns the circus. He sells tickets. He's the ringleader and the lion. Meanwhile, Gabriel's out here trying to throw shade from the bleachers. Let's zoom out, though. Because this isn't just a he said situation. This is a story about what happens when someone redefines what it means to be a rookie quarterback, and someone else can't stomach it. Shedeur Sanders didn't just sign a contract. He detonated an ideology. That prime equity clause? It's not just about money. It's about ownership. Not just of jerseys or merch, but of narrative, of power. For decades, the NFL has carefully guarded that. Players can be stars, sure, but only within the league structure. You get endorsements? Cool, but don't challenge the league's message. Don't outshine the shield. Shedeur said, nah, I'll build my own shield, thanks. And that scares people like Dillon Gabriel. Because it's not just that Shedeur is making money. It's that he's doing it his way, outside the system. In a position quarterback, that's historically been the league's favorite son. The company man. The spokesperson. The playbook protector. But Shedeur? He's disruptive. He wears designer shades to postgame. Edits his own highlight reels. Drops vlogs before team media even uploads interviews. And oh yeah, he owns all of it. And here's the part that makes Gabriel's comment look even worse. Shedeur's actually good. On the field, he's producing. He's reading defenses. He's winning games. He's not just the hype, he's the real deal. So when Gabriel takes a shot, it doesn't land like insight. It lands like resentment. And that resentment? It tells a bigger story. Because for decades, players like Gabriel, guys who followed the script, were supposed to be the safe bet. Not flashy, not controversial, just dependable. Wait your turn. Respect the hierarchy. Maybe you get a shot. But now, the hierarchy is shifting. Shedeur showed up with $1 billion playbook. And he didn't wait for permission to use it. He licensed it. And the fans? They're here for it. Because let's be real, this new generation doesn't just want football. They want personality. They want access. They want players who feel real. Shedeur is that. He's not just a QB. He's a content creator, a CEO, a cultural figure, a brand. And Gabriel? Well, right now he's a cautionary tale. The guy who couldn't adapt, who thought old school rules would still carry weight in a new world league, who mistook silence for softness and forgot that sometimes the best clapback is winning without saying a word. And now that he's gone, the Browns are all in on Shedeur. The fans love him. The merch is flying. And most importantly, the team's following his lead. Not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. So here's the deal. Dillon Gabriel may have gone viral, but not in the way he hoped. And the contrast between him and Shedeur Sanders? That's the real story. It's not just about stats. It's about vision. One man tried to tear another down to prop himself up. The other kept building. And if you're still waiting for Shedeur to say something back, don't hold your breath. He's got bigger things to do, like redefining the NFL one viral moment and one equity clause at a time. If you're into this kind of drama, the locker room whispers, the contract bombs, the media storms, and the power plays that change the game, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe, drop a comment with your take, and tell us. Was Dillon Gabriel speaking truth, or just salty on the way out? We'll be watching. Because the revolution? It's already underway. The thing is, Dillon Gabriel's viral moment? That wasn't a one-day Twitter meltdown. It wasn't just a spicy quote tossed into the media bonfire for clicks. No, this thing has legs. It grew. It mutated. It turned into a full-blown referendum on what it means to be a quarterback in the modern NFL. And somehow, someway, Gabriel became the accidental spokesperson for the old guard. A walking embodiment of the wait your turn, be grateful, don't make waves mentality that's been baked into pro football for decades. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is running a completely different playbook, figuratively and literally. And no matter how you slice it, the contrast between these two guys, it's starting to feel like a cultural fault line. Let's be honest, it was never going to stay just about football. Because in 2025, the quarterback isn't just a guy calling plays. He's the face of the franchise, the narrator of the story, the one with a microphone in his hand and $1 billion brand in his Instagram bio. The job has changed. The definition has changed. And if you think Dillon Gabriel didn't feel that pressure, being in the same room, on the same roster, as Shedeur Sanders, you're kidding yourself. Imagine being Gabriel, grinding through college, playing for multiple programs, trying to prove your NFL material. You finally land a roster spot. You think, this is it. I'm in. And then, in walks Shedeur, with a camera crew, with sunglasses, with equity clauses in his contract. And suddenly, your dream job feels like background noise. That's the storm Gabriel was in. Doesn't excuse what he said, but it does explain it. And when he finally snapped, when he dropped that smug little quote, some guys are built for football, some are built for the cameras, he thought it was going to land like truth. But instead, it landed like envy. Because Shedeur is built for football, and the cameras, and the contracts, and the chaos. He's built for all of it. And Gabriel? He just told on himself. Publicly. You could almost hear the collective facepalm from NFL execs, PR advisors, and quarterback coaches everywhere. Because it was a rookie mistake, made by a guy who's not a rookie anymore. You don't go after the guy who replaced you unless you're either ready to go to war or you've got nothing left to lose. And Gabriel? He had already lost the room, the locker room, the narrative, the opportunity. And the worst part? His own words confirmed why. Because in today's NFL, character matters, but so does charisma. So does media savvy. So does knowing when to talk and when to just work. Shedeur never fired back. He didn't need to. He knew that every extra rep he put in, every endorsement deal that dropped, every video that hit 1 million views, was a louder answer than anything he could tweet. And it's not just his response that stung Gabriel. It's the results. Because while Gabriel's trade to the Panthers was meant to be a fresh start, the narrative followed him like a bad shadow. Fans were skeptical. The media brought up his past at every presser. And worst of all, the team didn't seem convinced. Carolina didn't roll out the red carpet. They handed him a clipboard and told him to prove it. And Shedeur? He was winning. Not just in merch sales, not just on social media, but on the field. His rookie numbers weren't just solid, they were historic. He had a higher QBR than most first-rounders. He was leading comeback drives. He was outperforming expectations every single week. And every touchdown pass felt like a mic drop. He wasn't just playing well. He was playing with purpose. Because, let's be real, Shedeur wasn't just trying to succeed. He was trying to make a point. To the scouts who doubted him. To the owners who tried to collude against his draft stock. To the agents who said his contract was delusional. And yes, to players like Dillon Gabriel, who couldn't keep his name out of their mouths. And now, the league is shifting around him. Young players are changing how they train, not just physically, but professionally. They're studying marketing, negotiating differently, looking at Shedeur's contract like a blueprint, not an outlier. It's a ripple effect. One contract, one player, one fifth-round pick who decided to bet on himself, loudly. And now the entire league is feeling the aftershock. And Gabriel's out here throwing pebbles, thinking he's starting a landslide. But the difference? Shedeur is the mountain. This goes beyond just one beef. It's a generational collision. The traditional wait in line culture versus the build your platform now mentality. And the audience? They've picked their side. Go scroll through the comments. People aren't debating whether Shedeur's too flashy. They're defending him like he's already an icon. They're calling out Gabriel for trying to punch up instead of stepping up. And now, Gabriel's boxed in. Because when you go viral for the wrong reasons in the NFL, there's no spin cycle strong enough to scrub it clean. You become that guy. The one who threw shade on the way out. The one who couldn't handle the spotlight, so he tried to dim someone else's. And coaches? They remember that. So when it's time to sign a backup or bring someone in for depth or give that one-year prove-it deal, they'll remember that interview, that quote, that tone, and they'll pass. Because why invite instability into your quarterback room when you could just not? Meanwhile, Shedeur, he's building. Not just his stats, not just his brand, but a whole new era of athlete empowerment. He's the prototype now. Control your image. Own your platform. Bet on yourself and bring receipts. It's not arrogance. It's strategy. It's survival in a league where careers are short and leverage is everything. So here's what we're left with. One quarterback making history. Another making excuses. And a league full of owners, execs, agents, and media people trying to figure out how to navigate this new normal. Because the age of quiet compliance? That's over. We're living in the age of the quarterback CEO, the athlete as entrepreneur, the brand before the broadcaster. And Dillon Gabriel? He just learned the hard way what happens when you underestimate a movement and try to fight it with sound bites instead of substance. When Gabriel made that slick little comment, some guys are built for football, some are built for the cameras, he didn't just spark outrage. He triggered a nationwide debate. Talk shows were foaming at the mouth. Twitter was ablaze. Even non-football fans had opinions. And that's the irony, right? The very spotlight he tried to drag Shedeur for thriving in, he stepped right into it. Willingly. Desperately. Because let's be honest, that wasn't strategy. That was spite. A last-ditch swipe from a guy watching someone else live the dream he thought he deserved. And the dream? It's not just about throwing touchdowns anymore. It's about controlling your name, your content, your narrative. Shedeur understands that. Intimately. He's not just a quarterback, he's a media machine. He doesn't wait for ESPN or NFL Network to tell a story. He's got his own production team, his own platforms, and most importantly, his own audience. That's why his contract went nuclear. This prime equity clause, it shook the foundations of NFL team ownership. For decades, the league has kept a tight grip on player profits outside the field. Want to sell jerseys? Sure, we'll cut you in after we take our slice. Want to license your image? Cool, but the league gets final say. Shedeur said, not anymore. He flipped the table, demanded a cut of everything tied to his name and likeness. And somehow, against all odds, the Browns said yes. And just like that, the rules changed. You could practically hear the pearl clutching from NFL owners across the country. It'll set a dangerous precedent, they said. It'll open the floodgates. Good. Because the flood is long overdue. Players have been the product and the promotion for too long without getting their fair cut. The league sells jerseys, highlights, video games, even NFTs, using player names and images. And those players often get pennies on the dollar. Shedeur came in and said no more. And Gabriel? He wasn't just watching that happen. He was living in it, sharing a locker room with the guy who cracked the code while he was still reading the manual. Of course, he felt salty. Who wouldn't? But instead of leveling up, instead of learning the new game, he went the opposite way. He lashed out. And that's the part that stings. Because for every young quarterback coming into the league now, Shedeur's the model. Not just for throwing dimes, but for playing chess with billionaires. For walking into the biggest power structure in American sports and saying, I'm not here to be managed. I'm here to partner. That's why he's winning. And not just financially, not just on the field, but in the hearts and minds of a generation that's watching this story play out like it's a movie. He's not just trending, he's inspiring. College athletes, taking notes. Agents, changing how they pitch clients. Even veteran NFL stars are reportedly watching Shedeur's team structure and reconsidering how they've handled their own branding and media rights. And let's not forget, the guy is 22 years old. He's not even in his prime, but he's already operating like a 10-year veteran with equity in his name. And the NFL? It's scrambling to keep up. Because what happens when the next Shedeur comes along and they want 3% of jersey sales? What happens when a top 5 pick demands full media rights on day one? What happens when all players realize they don't need to wait for endorsements? They can be the endorsement. You think Gabriel's little comment was a one-off? Nah, it was a symptom, a warning flare. He's not alone in feeling uncomfortable with this shift. There are coaches, execs, and yes, players, especially those who came up under the old school grind, who hate what Shedeur represents. They'll call it flashy, selfish, not a team guy. But that's projection. Because what Shedeur really represents: freedom. Freedom from being boxed in, from being told how much he's worth, from having to beg for table scraps while others profit off his image. He owns his identity now. And that's what terrifies them. Because it's not just Shedeur changing. It's the system cracking. Every clause in his contract, every viral clip he posts, every $1 million merch drop. It chips away at the old NFL power dynamic. And people like Dillon Gabriel, they're watching the cracks form from the outside. Powerless. Resentful. He could have played it smart. Taken the high road. Congratulated Shedeur. Even leaned into the movement. But instead, he took the low road and got run over by the truth. Because now, he's the guy who couldn't make it work, and then blamed the guy who did. That's the legacy he's writing for himself. One bitter quote at a time. Meanwhile, Shedeur's not just writing history. He's writing policy. His name is going to be cited in CBA meetings, in agent presentations, in college sports business classes. Because what he did, it's bigger than football. It's about value, about being seen, heard, and paid properly, without asking for permission. And no matter what the league says publicly, no matter how much they try to paint this as a one-time thing, you better believe they're taking it seriously. Behind closed doors, owners are panicking. They're looking for ways to close the loopholes, to rewrite rookie contract rules, to find the next compliant face of the franchise. But the toothpaste is out of the tube. Shedeur broke the matrix. And players everywhere are starting to realize they don't have to choose between ball and business. They can do both. And if the league doesn't adapt, they're going to lose the very talent they built their empire on. Because now, the future of football isn't just on the field, It's on YouTube, on TikTok, in merch stores, in equity deals, in control. And Shedeur Sanders? He's already there. So what comes next? More friction, more backlash, more attempts to put this revolution back in the box. But it's too late. The revolution already has a face, a name, and a contract that says, I am not just your player. I am your partner. The NFL? It's officially shook. Not just because Shedeur Sanders broke the mold, but because he did it without flinching. No apologies. No soft-stepping. No begging for approval. Just full throttle. Calculated disruption. And here's what really stings for the league, for the old heads, and yes, for guys like Dillon Gabriel. Shedeur made it look easy, while everyone else was still playing checkers, negotiating incentives for playing time or practice squad bonuses. He walked in like, cool, but what's my equity split? You know how wild that is? A rookie with a 5th-round tag pulled off a deal so bold, it has billion-dollar ownership groups calling emergency meetings. That's not just impressive, that's historic. And it exposed something the league didn't want fans, players, or even themselves to admit. They're not ready for players who come in knowing their true value. Because if Shedeur could do this, who's next? Imagine what happens when top 5 picks start demanding ownership of their own name and likeness. When they say, you don't get to make money off my jersey unless I do too. And the league? They'll resist, of course. They'll try to scare rookies out of it. Whisper about distractions and chemistry and being a team player. But all those buzzwords are just smoke. The truth is, they're scared of losing control. Because control is how the NFL has always operated. Control over image, over money, over the message. And Shedeur? He didn't just take some of that control. He stole it in broad daylight. That's what Gabriel didn't understand. This wasn't about cameras versus football. This wasn't about flash versus grit. This was about evolution. And Shedeur? He's not chasing attention. He's redirecting power. He didn't go viral because he ran his mouth. He went viral because he ran his game plan and didn't miss a beat. So now every young athlete coming up, every agent watching this saga, every GM planning for the next draft, they're all asking the same question. Do we fight this? Or do we adjust? Because the era of the silent, obedient rookie is fading. And in its place, a new model. Smart, strategic, media-savvy, business-minded, and absolutely unafraid to bet on himself. That's Shedeur Sanders. And if you think this is the end of the story, you haven't been paying attention. This is the beginning of a whole new league. So hit that subscribe button, drop your take in the comments. Was Shedeur bold or reckless? Is this the dawn of player power or the start of chaos? Either way, the NFL will never be the same.